I was sitting in the back of my French class doodling in my margins of my paper, which is what I did in most of my classes. And there was a kid sitting next to me and he looked over at my paper and he said, "Oh, you should put that on a t-shirt or something." And it was in that moment that I realized that somebody is responsible for all the patterns in the world. So from anything, and it's like that comment just opened my eyes to the fact that any pattern on your Kleenex box, your wallpaper, a woman's dress, anything must be created by a person. So if I could figure out how to do that, then I wouldn't have to be a mortician. And, this was before Google. So figuring out that textile design was actually a viable career path was something that wasn't so easy. For most of my career, I've been pretty digital. And I will, I am not a painter the way a lot of textile designers are. So I end up being more on they used to call it a stylist. I don't know if that term is still in use, but we had a small design team. The design, design director would sort of pick a lot of the directions, and then we would often purchase artwork that was made by people who were real painters and artists that had the hand for the toile, or this one might have a fauves floral hand, or different. And then it would be our job or my job to say, this art is going to be interpreted in this way with these types of yarns and these colors. And you would go back and forth with the technical designers at the mill who actually applied all the weaves and did all that. So it was a little bit, and then there was a lot of merchandising, and you would name the pattern. So it wasn't so much an artistic job as I think people sometimes think about it. But it really is, it was a lot of follow-up and a lot of writing blankets with little yarn cards and things like that. The scene there was completely different because in New York, that was where all the big fabric houses were. The mills had design studios there. You really had this infrastructure where there were big companies with, hierarchies. And in Los Angeles, the companies were mainly smaller companies where the principal was the design visionary, and it, it's like littler places. And so it was a real different landscape. And I ended up getting a job with Barbara Barry. And I stayed with Barbara Barry in various different kind of ways and capacities for almost 15 years. I started with her mainly, it was actually before she had her cravat collection. And I was doing tabletop, I was doing table linens, and then also a lot of rugs at the time. She was really gung-ho with Tefenkian at that moment. So we were doing a ton of rug design. And that was another sort of broadening for me, where she's very intuitive and visionary in the way she just views, like she can see the product at the end in the ad or in the room. And I'm like, but what about this yarn? And how is this made? And I'm more like the nerd. So it was a good, combination in that way, because she would sort of push me to figure it out. And that was great. A lot of my career has been spent behind the computer, as I said. And there is this thing that happens. It can happen if you're in-house somewhere, and it can also happen if you're running your own business, where you just kind of get overwhelmed. You don't maybe take the time to do the things that light you up creatively. And it's a struggle for a lot of people. So I was definitely dealing with that. And my experience of going to a show was that it really put a spark under me. It really lit me up. And seeing the breadth of what people were doing, and seeing the integrity behind a lot of the work, seeing the innovations around sustainability and interesting thinking, I just left feeling so inspired and so uplifted. So that was a feeling that I wanted to capture in this report for the client. Not just like, okay, well, we're seeing more green florals or green leaves or whatever. Like you really want to give over the feeling of being in the presence of great work. So I did that as best I could. It also helped me kind of look and see what trends, taking that taking that, you go to the show, you see everything, but then when you come back and you start to assort your photographs and really think things through, that's when things, for me, coalesce. And you don't necessarily take it in when you're there in the same way you do when you're looking at everything later. And as a working designer, you often don't have the time to go through and do that. So I thought, okay, even for people that go to the show, this could be a really good resource. I miss being at the show because that moment when you're like, you just see something out of the corner of your eye and you run over and you discover it and you've never seen it before. Like, of course I miss that 100%. And seeing things in person and feeling them, you can't really, you can't replicate that. But the process of being back at the computer with the hundreds or thousands now of pictures is the same. This is a marble piece from Turkey. And I went there with my mom to Istanbul and found it and just fell in love with it. So it's not a textile, but it's a pattern. Mm-hmm. And then another piece, which was actually a gift from a friend, is this, it's a little ribbon from the Wiener Werkstatt. And that's a friend. I helped him put together some ideas in his apartment. And so this was a gift that he gave me as a thank you. I have a pretty salty inner critic, let's put it that way, like I think a lot of us do. But what I found with the collage, I found a few tricks. One is if I listen to a book on tape, especially about business, my inner critic is like completely distracted and then I can just like do my thing. So that's fun. And then the other thing that I noticed is that with collage, it just feels like there's an easier flow sometimes than with painting or drawing. So one of the collages that I did was this one.
Ooh, I really like that.
This was like an Hermes ad. I just took out all the people and the products and just used the background. And so my dad, as I mentioned, is a musician, and I often get tapped to do his record covers. And I don't mind the graphic design part of it, but the artwork part is excruciating. So if he has a photograph or a friend that does art, then I put the graphic design together. And in this case, he had a bunch of free jazz collaborations that he wanted to put together. And the name of the record is Confabulations, which is such a great name. And he said, oh, I need some art. I don't know what to do. And so I sent him a bunch of pictures of different things that I had that, I had bought over the years or stuff that might work. And he picked this. And so I turned it, this is just a proof printout from my printer, but there it is on the record cover. So that was really nice. I would do a cold rice noodle salad with tofu and I might do like a peanut sauce with tofu and red cabbage and cilantro and a lot of lime and no fish sauce because we're vegan, and some sriracha on top. And what would be the thing that would put it? Peanuts. Yeah, I think that I might do that. And then if you said, oh no, it's European, I would do a lentil salad. Mushrooms, lentils, frisee. It's good with bacon, but I could put that on the side.